And good morning, fellow travelers. This is Mojado, and today I am going to attempt to participate in the 10-minute motovlog challenge. If you don't know what that challenge is, it was a challenge that was put out to other motovloggers on a Facebook group, and the object of the challenge is to see if you can do 10 minutes of video without editing, without stopping, without losing your train of thought. And oh my God, that is difficult for people like me, because when I'm on the bike, my train of thought goes everywhere. And so I'm going to attempt it. I thought a little bit about what I wanted to talk about, and I get asked this a lot, so I am going to cover what to do and how to not get a traffic ticket, specifically for those of you who ride. Some of you know I've been in law enforcement for a long time. I started in 1984, so I'm an old-timer. And most of those years were in patrol, and a lot of it was doing traffic. So I wrote a lot of tickets. So I can tell you sort of from a unique perspective on what to do if you get pulled over by the police and how not to get a traffic ticket. So here's the key points. Let's say you're tootling along on a motorcycle and you see the red and blue lights behind you. The number one thing on the officer's mind is not writing tickets. That is one of the big fallacies in police work. The officer's number one concern is safety. He wants to make sure that he goes home at the end of his shift. So just about everything that he does and everything he wants you to do is involved in his safety. So there's a couple of things, but keep that in mind, is that the reason we're going to be telling you what to do and how to do it is because he is concerned about his safety. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know if you could be an armed felon. He doesn't know if you're considering running. There are a lot of pursuits with motorcyclists, and that's the way a lot of people get hurt. So that's going to be one of the concerns on his mind. So when you see the red lights come on, you are going to want to pick a spot to pull over that is both safe for you and safe for the officer. Now let's look at the road that we're on right now. There's not much of a shoulder, not much of a safe place to pull over. So this would not be a good spot to pull over if an officer is lighting you up and conducting a traffic stop. You want to go ahead and put on your turn signal or use a hand signal and look for a spot to pull over that's going to be safe. A spot that's going to be wide enough so that other traffic doesn't hit you, and hopefully a spot that's well lit. A parking lot is ideal. So if you've got a parking lot coming up or a small intersection that's got a wide shoulder, that would work too. So find a good spot to pull over and make sure you signal. That tells the officer that you are going to pull over, that you're just looking for a good spot. When you get to that spot, don't do like some motorcyclists do and keep your motorcycle running. That's an indication that you might be thinking about starting a pursuit, running from the officer. He doesn't want that. So when you get to that spot for you to pull over, put your kickstand down, turn off the motor. Now the other thing that the officer doesn't want to see is you fishing in your pockets when you come to a stop. He doesn't know if you're going for your license or if you're searching for a weapon. Like I said, I've had a lot of people say, well, he should be able to just take a look at me and tell that I'm not someone that's going to try to hurt him, or that I don't have a weapon or something. He doesn't know that. So keeping in mind that he doesn't know what's up with you, once you pull over and turn your engine off, I would put both hands on the handlebars and just sit there. When the officer comes and approaches you, he'll ask you for your driver's license and your insurance. Here in Texas, they usually don't ask for registration, but other states they might. Once he asks you for that, tell him where your wallet is, where your license is, where your insurance is, and explain to him that you're going to go into that pocket or that saddlebag or whatever to retrieve those items. Wait for him to give you the go-ahead. I would not exit or get off your bike until the officer tells you to. You sure as hell don't want to get off your bike and walk towards the police car. That's the most efficient way to get tased or shot or something like that. Do not approach the officer in any way that he might interpret as threatening. Once you produce your driver's license and insurance, and keep in mind this too, especially in Texas, if you don't have your driver's license with you, you're probably going to get a citation. Now, don't freak out if he issues you a citation for no driver's license just because you didn't have it on you. Most courts, if you have a valid license, will dismiss that charge for you if you can provide that at court. Okay? So don't freak out over any part of the citation, because there are ways that you can prove that you have a license just by producing it at court. Same thing for insurance. But be prepared that if you don't have those documents, that you will probably get a citation for it. So it's important to always carry your license on you. Now, the next thing, the officer will explain to you why he pulled you over. And this is probably the most important part of whether you get a citation or not, or get a warning. You don't want to argue with the officer on why he pulled you over on the side of the road. I used to tell people, the side of the road is not the place to argue. A courtroom is the place to argue whether or not the officer was justified in pulling you over. Nothing that you're going to say on the side of the road is going to convince the officer that he was wrong in pulling you over. Okay? Get that thought out of your mind. If you're one of those type A personalities that love to argue with everyone to show that you are always right and they are always wrong, you probably already have a lot of citations, and you're probably going to get a few more. If that's your personality type and you know who you are, just don't argue with them. Just accept the fact that that you got pulled over and you're probably going to get a ticket, and you can argue about it in court with the prosecutor. You need to make friends with the officer. If it were me, everything would be yes sir, no sir. Just be very agreeable, very polite. And keep in mind that the officer probably hasn't had a polite conversation with anyone since his shift began. So a little smile, ask him how his day is going. Things like that go a long way. The officer might also ask you what I would call interdiction questions. Now, if you don't know what interdiction questions are, those are questions that the officer may ask, which will help him determine what you're up to. He doesn't know if you are just somebody that goofed up and went too fast or went through a stop sign, or if you might be some sort of narcotics carrier, if you might be a wanted felon. So the interdiction questions are really to test your honesty. And the interdiction questions might be, where are you coming from? You might say, well, like a friend's house or a restaurant. And then he might ask you, where are you going? Be honest, brutally honest if you need to, about those questions and how you answer them. If you say, I went to a friend's house, he might say, what friend were you visiting? Where does he live? And this would be especially true if you were driving around in a neighborhood that's known for narcotics. I used to do a lot of interdiction questions, and some people would get very upset because we were just asking those questions. I remember asking a subject, does this motorcycle belong to you? And he got really offended at that. The officer's going to find out that information when he runs the tag on who the motorcycle is registered to. Again, little questions like that are going to be to see if you are being truthful with him or not. If the motorcycle is registered to someone else, just tell him ahead of time so it doesn't look like you're being untruthful to any of his questions. Then he may ask you some questions about the violation, especially if it was speeding. If you were speeding, he may ask you, is there a reason why you were going as fast as you were? Just tell him. If you weren't thinking about it, just tell him, hey man, I was enjoying the ride and wasn't thinking about my speed. Didn't look down at the speedometer. If you went through a stop sign without coming to a complete stop, just tell him. You know, sometimes coming to a complete stop is difficult on a motorcycle, and you didn't take the time. Tell him you goofed up. Police officers know that everyone makes mistakes, and I would say that your attitude in a traffic stop has about 80% of what the outcome will be. If you have a good, positive attitude, friendly, cooperative, that goes a long way to determining whether or not the officer's writing a warning or if it becomes a citation. Now keep in mind that a good attitude helps, but it doesn't always guarantee a warning. There are some agencies who, this is one of those ugly little truths. There are some agencies that put a very heavy emphasis on traffic citations, and in those cases, nothing that you say or do is going to guarantee a warning. If there are some agencies, especially state agencies, highway patrol troopers, that if you get pulled over, you're going to get a citation. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So don't waste your breath. But attitude has a lot to do with it. And lastly, if you are getting a citation, he'll hand you a citation book or tablet, ask you to sign. Again, don't argue. He knows you're upset. Just don't show that you're upset. And Don't be one of these jerks that says, well, I'm not signing the ticket. I don't know where some people get the idea that that helps you out or something like that. It doesn't help you. In fact, if you refuse to sign the citation, that's a whole new charge, and you could be detained and taken before a magistrate just for that. So the signature doesn't mean that you're admitting guilt. It just means that it's your promise to appear in court. So sign the ticket, thank the officer for his time, tell him you hope he has a safe day, and you're done. And like I said before, everything that the officer does is designed for his safety. But here's one last little parting bit of advice that may be the best advice at all. If you don't want to get a ticket, don't commit the offense. That sounds really simplistic, but it's true. If you don't want to get a speeding ticket, don't be riding like a bat out of hell. That's the easiest way of all. If you don't commit the violation, you don't have anything to worry about. That's all I've got for today. I think I'm close to 10 minutes, which, like I said, is difficult for me to do without heavy editing. But hope you enjoy the videos. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to be notified of future videos, click the little bell, and that way you'll get notified when new Mojado videos are uploaded. And until next time, this is Mojado signing out.
And so we come to the end of another fun-filled episode of Rocky and Bullwinkle.